Make a habit of empathy, to recognize ourselves in each other.
My name is Lynda Smith, and I'm one of the collaborative trainers here at Bay NVC. And I've been teaching nonviolent communication about 5 years. And now I'm working primarily with individuals and couples in private sessions, so doing basically empathy, one-on-one, and reconciliation work and mediation. And I also am working with inmates at San Quentin doing empathy. For me, it's a focusing of my attention in a particular way as I'm listening to someone. So I'm focusing my attention on what I'm hearing is most important to them, or what's really at the heart of the matter for them. And that may not be something that's in their conscious awareness. So I'm focusing on the content of what they're saying, but I'm also sort of listening underneath that for what really matters here, what's really at stake for them. So that's how I regard empathy. And I also actually think it's an experience of almost like a spiritual alchemical process that happens between two people when you're in this empathic place together. So I'm sort of opening myself to what's coming toward me. I'm putting down any of my own stuff, my own thoughts, opinions, judgments. I'm putting that aside, so I'm making consciously space inside myself for what this person is entrusting me with. And then that comes in and it actually gets transformed, it metamorphoses, it changes into something else because of the attention that I put on it. And then I offer that back to them as an offering. Is this what it's like to be you? And there is something really ineffably, inexpressibly beautiful for me in that process, that connection.
What came to me was, it seemed to be more than listening, but it was almost like you were feeling the person.
Yeah, and it's starting, it'll get, I think, hard to really put words to it, but it is certainly more than a cognitive process. It's certainly more than just hearing the content of what they're sharing. It's a striving to unite with their experience. So I might bring in my sort of memories of something that I might have experienced like that to help me unite with their experience. So I'm not completely out of the picture in this process. And that would involve feelings, for sure. But it's mostly whatever inner activity I can bring to bear to unite with their experience and then reflect that back to them.
Can you recount a experience where you learned something about empathy, gained some kind of an insight?
Where I gained an insight about empathy. Something happened in a class or a training last year where I was the trainer for a group of advanced students who were learning nonviolent communication, and I was it was a year-long training, and I was one of 3 trainers who came in and worked with the students, participants, and they had had several trainers, and that was difficult for some of the participants because they were expecting to have just one trainer the whole time, the whole year. And during my weekend, when I was there to work with the group, I was feeling really sick and I needed to leave early. And I expressed that to the group that I'm going to have to leave early, and it's so urgent for me that I'm really not even open to hearing I'm not open to negotiating this. It's pretty much a unilateral decision, but I want to hear from you about it. And one participant hearing that said, "You're a liar. You don't really want to hear from us. You don't really care what we have to say." And in that moment, something really clicked for me. In that moment, I was very able to respond with empathy to him. There was no defensiveness at all. And I said something like, so is it important for you to have a consistency in leadership so that you can just relax and really receive the learning, which is what you're here for? And he said, yes, that's it. And in reflecting on that, why it was so easy for me to shift into empathy was this awareness that anybody's response, anybody's experience is never the whole truth, but their experience matters. So if somebody says something to me that's really hard for me to hear, if I can really stay connected to that awareness, that their experience matters, it's important, but it's not the whole truth. Because it was really clear for me that I was sick and that I was honestly sharing what was true for me, and I was caring. So it helped me stay present to his experience. The question is, what led me to work with couples, and how am I experiencing that work? And I think I came to it just because there were requests. People would call the office and ask for support. People who specifically weren't wanting therapy, couples counseling, but wanting a different way to connect. And it's become like sacred work for me because I so often experience people arriving who are intensely polarized and not seeing each other, missing each other profoundly. And at the end of our work together, whether it's one session or many sessions, they look at each other with tears in their eyes and their hearts open, and to be able to facilitate greater connection, greater understanding is just the most sacred work in the world. And a couple I have been working with for 2 years through this process, they came not knowing whether they wanted to be together. And they are now married and expecting a child. So, and they had tried couples therapy. And so there's something very profound about just creating the space for each of them to be heard and to be reflected for what matters to them. And they can't not see each other and hear each other in new ways. So it's been deeply, deeply gratifying.